Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, March 11th now. Taking a quick look, daily go around with it. You know how it is. Corona time, everybody. 118,533 cases, 4,267 deaths, and 65,105 recovered. Taking a quick look by country, I pulled this information earlier in the day on Tuesday. It's about 6 p.m. Pacific time when I pulled these numbers, so you'll probably see something different if you look now. Taking a quick look at the cases by country, the news actually was that the U.S. has broken 1,000. You don't see that here reflected in the update, but the U.S. is now over 1,000. China reported 26 new cases after only having, 3 or 4 yesterday. So again, 3 or 4 was a little bit bizarre. 26. So Italy's up over 10,000 now. Almost 1,000 cases for them on the day. Iran, almost 900 cases. South Korea, only 35 cases. So hopefully things are starting to look a little bit better there, but France, Spain, Germany really taken off. Looks like Switzerland's taken off. I'll show you here. 123, Norway 116, Sweden 95. It looks like, unfortunately for those citizens, 172 in Denmark, yikes. Looks like unfortunately for those citizens it's really starting to take off. And you'd expect the same, Austria, Belgium, you'd expect to see those numbers, the UK, Netherlands, you'd expect to see that take off in the next week or so as well, unfortunately. This is a Guardian article story that I came across that I want to share with everybody. Archived it. That'll be in the description box. Uber to give drivers financial assistance if sick. Global rideshare company Uber has just sent an email to users saying that they will give any of its drivers who contract COVID-19 or who are forced to self-isolate financial assistance. Uber, like other companies in the gig economy, insists that its drivers are independent contractors, not employees, which in many jurisdictions means they are not entitled to sick leave, hourly minimum wages, and other entitlements. However, in many jurisdictions, the lack of sick leave can be a key indicator of whether a person is an employee or contractor and could force their workers to be reclassified. Regardless, the email from CEO Dana Dara Kurushavi says that any driver or delivery person who is diagnosed with COVID-19 or is individually asked to self-isolate by a public health authority will receive financial assistance for up to 14 days while their account is on hold. The email also says that Uber may temporarily suspend the accounts of riders or drivers confirmed to have contracted or been exposed to COVID-19. We understand that you may be relying more on food delivery right now. If you prefer, you can leave a note in the Uber Eats app to ask your delivery person to leave your food at the door. Now, this is actually something that's interesting to think about. I mean, it would seem like it's a positive thing that Uber's doing here. So like it said in that paragraph, when you're providing sick leave to the individual, it may cause the individual to be reclassified as an employee. It would seem that that's something that Uber would want to avoid, since they've definitely been trying to avoid that in terms of their entire business model. And I agree with Uber in that sense that the drivers should be seen as independent contractors because they are choosing the times they want to work, the hours they want to work, how much they want to work. To me, that's all I need to hear in terms of an individual being a contractor or not. But I have to give kudos to Uber here for, despite the possible downfall of it, despite some jurisdictions that will probably after the fact try to take advantage of this and say, see, Uber, we told you they were employees and not contractors. Uber's still stepping up, and I think that this is something that really could give them a lot of public goodwill in terms of how they're seen by individuals across the country, across the world, and definitely by their drivers. I know their drivers for sure. Definitely happy to hear about this news. And even though it won't alleviate the concern of who the heck's getting into my car and what do they have, at least they know that if something does come up, or if there is a situation where it turns out where they have to self-quarantine due to contracting this from a rider or whomever, from a family member, whomever they get it from, that Uber's got their back. I'll say kudos to Uber on this one. They did something that they don't have to do. It definitely is something that people should look at positively, and I just hope that when all is said and done, that people aren't trying to use it against Uber to try to come back on them and say, hey, they're employees after all. So good thing here, Uber's doing. They don't have to. Just leave it at that. Another story that comes out of the whole impact of the coronavirus case is a New York Times article that I found on Tuesday. It's talking about here, the headline you can see, the IRS could extend the tax payment deadline past April 15th. So let's read a little bit and see what they say here. The Treasury Department is considering delaying tax payments beyond the April 15th deadline, according to a person familiar with the plans. as taxpayers and the IRS brace for economic disruption from the spread of the coronavirus. Treasury and White House officials have been discussing the idea of extending the tax deadline over the past several weeks as the administration considers measures to relieve financial pressure on individuals and businesses struggling from the fallout from a virus that has closed schools, kept workers at home, and disrupted supply chains. The IRS could extend the tax payment deadline or waive penalties and interest for late payments. The plan, which was reported earlier by the Wall Street Journal, came as Democrats on the House Ways and Means Committee wrote to Charles Rettig, the IRS commissioner, to ask for an update on the effect of the outbreak on tax filing season and for an evaluation of whether the agency needs to reevaluate the traditional April 15th deadline. On Monday, as stock markets plunged, President Donald Trump said that the administration would consider economic stimulus options, including a payroll tax cut and other relief. Larry Kudlow, director of the National Economic Council, said on Tuesday the administration could use executive authority to help individuals and businesses, noting that we have the leverage on tax deferral. I don't know how all of you feel about this. I'm good with it. I haven't finished my taxes, but I'm getting a refund anyway, so I'm not really concerned about it. It's some small amount, not an amount worth really stressing over. I guess playing the devil's advocate in a way, you could say, well, why are these individuals owing taxes anyway, right? We know what taxes are in a given year. It's just if you get a refund, it just means you paid too much taxes during the year, right? If you owe money, then that means you didn't pay enough. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole sect of individuals that I've seen on some forums and sites where they say taxation is theft, down with the government, all that stuff. That's fine. That's a different argument for a different day that you individuals can have. But strictly speaking, in terms of whether or not I feel like this should or shouldn't happen, again, like I said, I'm not too concerned about it one way or another. If they want to push the deadline back a few months, then I think that may help some individuals out. If you're owing taxes and you're going to be stuck in a situation, say you're in the hospitality business, or even the segment I talked about earlier with the Uber driver, some kind of gig economy, something that's really impacted by the slowdown, then if you owe money, like I said, even though you underpaid during the year, it's still going to make it hard on you. And even though I'm getting a refund, I don't want to see my fellow Americans suffering and having to deal with this whole corona thing, dealing with these companies trying to tell them, oh, work from home, when they don't necessarily have a job where they have to work from home, people getting their hours cut, getting furloughed. Again, like I said, things like Uber, where your income is really based on the amount at which people are traveling, kind of like the tourism industry and stuff like that. So for individuals like that whose incomes are disrupted, I definitely have some love for those people, and if this is something that helps them out, pushing it back a few months until things kind of hopefully get back on track and everybody can kind of get back to some sense of normalcy, hopefully, then it's something I'm definitely for. So like I said, I don't know how all of you feel about it, but I see it as a good thing. I don't know that with the amount of money that we waste anyway, I don't know how much of an impact this is going to make, but they'll have to figure out some way to kind of offset the bumps in kind of the revenue intake that's going to be lost because of that. But again, I have no problem with that, giving people a break, because you've got to do something. Things are starting to get a little rough, and I'll show you here in this next segment. This is an NBC News article, everybody. Each day I try to find a few things that are going on around the US and around the globe just to kind of show you what kinds of things are being impacted, just so we kind of get the gravity of it. I think to see these things kind of helps us think long term, like where's this thing going to end? How far is it going to go? First one we got here for you. Philadelphia calls off St. Patrick's Day parade as the first case is reported. The same day it announced its first case of COVID-19, Philadelphia called off its St. Patrick's Day parade and all related events on Tuesday. They didn't waste any time, right? One case and they were done with it. Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney urged people to avoid any event with 5,000 or more attendees from now through Friday. Not sure why they're targeting Friday as a date, but there you see it. So St. Patrick's Day parade getting canceled. And this is the big one right here. The big one, the literal big one. I know this one is going to break many of your hearts and maybe prevent them from being clogged as well. But here you go. MGM Resorts temporarily closing Vegas buffets. So it says Las Vegas Casino and Hotel Company MGM Resorts said Tuesday that it was temporarily closing buffets at 7 properties on the Las Vegas Strip. The buffets will be closed at Aria, Bellagio, MGM Grand, Mandalay Bay, the Mirage, Luxor, and Excalibur starting Sunday, a spokesman said in a statement. These changes are temporary, and will be evaluated on a weekly basis, Brian Ahern, Director of Media Relations for MGM Resorts International, said. The statement does not explicitly say whether the move was prompted by the novel coronavirus, but comes amid a growing number of cases in the U.S. Well, I don't know why you would even include that sentence. Sure, we didn't read the statement and we get it, but obviously we get the connection. So people, sorry, I know that you're going to Vegas, and this will obviously be for next week. It looks like they're still going to keep them running through this week. Those of you who are going to Vegas next week, and we're hoping to pick up 10, 15 pounds at a couple of these buffets, sorry everybody, you're going to have to just make do with the normal level of gluttony that comes from all the great food in Vegas. And even more disheartening news, something that I don't know that I'll be able to pull myself out of bed because of this, but Dr. Phil and Wendy Williams, our latest to cancel live audiences, no! We're going to skip that. We don't care about them. There's something locally along here, the Coachella Festival. It's a music festival that's out here in April. Stagecoach as well. It's a country music festival that follows Coachella. Both of those have pushed their dates back to October. So those were supposed to be early to mid-April, and they've pushed those back to mid to late October, respectively. I think they were a week apart, maybe they're 2 weeks apart. So more music festivals. We heard about South by Southwest a couple days ago. Oh, and an update on South by Southwest that I just read was they actually aren't going to offer refunds to individuals who had bought tickets for the show. I guess they have a strict no refund policy that's there on the ticket and everything like that. We'll see how that goes. I think if there's one thing we know, that if enough people together on Twitter get angry on social media or whatever, then those refunds are going to happen. And I think for a lot of companies, festivals in this kind of situation, you're really asking for a lot of bad publicity when you come out and say there's going to be no refunds, because social media is going to tear you a new one, and you're probably going to end up giving the refund anyway. So we'll see where that goes with that festival. And the last one I've got for you here, Waffle House closes one Georgia location. If you're like me, you got to be down with chicken and waffles. I'm not going to lie. I'm not too ashamed to admit it. Chicken and waffles, as long as you get a good piece of chicken. Last time I went to some chicken and waffle place, they gave me like fried drumstick that was like this. It was all shriveled up and over fried. Pissed. I was pissed. The waffle was good and everything, but the chicken was like this. I was so pissed off. Told the waitress about it. I was like, what the f is this? Get this fucking shit out of here. So anyway, okay, off of that. All right, so Waffle House closing one of its Georgia locations after an employee tested positive for coronavirus, the company announced. The chain location they give here, it says it's being temporarily closed as the restaurant is sanitized. The employee's most recent workday had been March 1st. So in that case, it makes sense. They're not just closing it because of the outbreak as a preventative measure. They're closing it because an employee who worked there actually tested positive. So I'm with that. So we're good. Okay, we're cool. All right, Waffle House is going to be back open pretty soon, and I'll have to check out some chicken and waffles around where I live pretty soon. So again, everybody, those are just some random stories from around the Corona world today. Again, like I always say, be smart out when you're out there. Don't panic. Watch out for individuals who do panic. These types of individuals are the ones that will get everybody in trouble with their stupidity. Be wise. Just educate yourself. Keep watching videos. Make sure you're keeping an eye on the news. Keeping an eye on creators, what they're saying on the internet about it. Just keep educating yourself. Stay calm. Stay relaxed. And just make sure you're out there just doing what you need to do to stay healthy. It looks like avoiding those situations where a lot of people are at right now, making sure you're, like they say, washing your hands. They have some ridiculous stuff like not shaking hands with people. People are doing like the elbow bump now. That's all right. I'm still shaking hands with people. I even read one where they're saying don't touch elevator buttons with your fingers or whatever. Wear gloves. Again, just make sure you're keeping an eye on the news. Just stay educated and be safe out there. And if it comes to your town, as I said, just make sure you have a little bit of extra supplies on hand, a little food, a little water to tide you over in the event that you do have to remain within your own residence for a period of a couple weeks. As always, thanks for watching the video, everybody, and take care. Have a good rest of your week.